So let us start with the second part of chapter 6, strategy evaluation. What is strategy evaluation framework? We are talking about the framework. So it's the process of collecting, of shaping the effectiveness of a strategy in order to achieve the goals and objectives of a firm. Just I'm giving you short information or explanation instead of reading the whole thing for you. Okay, so it's again I'm going to say it is a process of shaping the effectiveness of a strategy in order to achieve the goals and objectives of a firm. Also, correcting actions where required. This is giving an idea showing how to evaluate correctly. So the main things I just underline them for you, and the red one is very important. This is the main idea of this page. When it can be done. This is strategy evaluation, when it can be done. So it's saying it's a final step in the strategy management process. So in the management process, you cannot think of strategy evaluation from the beginning. It's a final step. After putting strategies, then start forming strategy evaluation. After putting all the strategies, all the plans, all the ideas, evaluation, then start forming a strategy evaluation, because it focuses on those 3 points. Number 1, examining the underlying basis of a firm strategy. It's looking at the main things you have in the organization as a base for forming those strategy, comparing the actual results with expected results. Therefore, we say it's a final steps. What happened and what was expected to get by the end. Taking remedial corrective actions. So it's a final step to focus on those 3. If there is something wrong, so step 3 will be done. Remedial corrective action to be taken immediately rather than increasing the problem or the problem there. So I think it's clear, yes? I think it's clear. So the note there is saying what? Evaluation, make sure strategy plus the implementation of this strategy meets the organizational objectives. Why we are doing that? Why we are doing evaluation? To make sure that the strategy that we put or evaluated plus the implementation, those 2 meets the objectives of the organization. Nature of strategy evaluation. Nature of strategy evaluation. I have highlighted so many points there, so we can say it's found to test the effectiveness of a strategy. Also to make sure these strategies are accurate. These questions should be answered by the used strategy, means covering the answers for these questions. We have some questions here down. We should make sure the put strategy or the strategy we are using to evaluate is accurate. Answering these questions, then we can say our strategy is covering we can say our strategy is on the right track once it's covering all those questions. Go over them. I'm not going to go over all of them. I'll just focus on number 1. Are the premises made during strategy formulation providing to be correct? Is the idea here, is the strategy going in the right direction and accurate at the same time? This is the idea of number 1. Is it going in the right direction and accurate at the same time? Number 2 is saying, is the strategy going in the number 1 is, are the strategy during I just mixed between, are the premises during the strategy formula. It's going, I have to go back to my notes just a second to look at the question. Are the plans or the ideas that we put during formulating our strategies are accurate? Number 2, is the strategy going in the right direction and answering the questions that we plan to cover in our strategy? Number 3, 4, and 5, I think, are easy and direct. Just look at them. I think they are easy. Just read them. If there is something is not clear in those 4 or 5 points, just ask me in the group so I can answer you. Let us see the last one. How is the organization performing? How it's working? How it's doing according to the provided strategy? I think all of them are clear here. Let us move to the second page. Still, we have some questions this strategy should cover. Still, we have some questions that this strategy should cover. So the first one is focusing, did the organization stick to the timeline given? This is very important, to adhere to the given time, to the schedule. Otherwise, you won't finish on time. If you don't follow the schedule or focus or stick, which is adhering to the time, then you will be in trouble. Then, our sourcing being utilized properly means good use of resources. Did they use the resources properly? And the other one also focusing on checking if resources are used properly and they meet the objectives of the organization. I'm making use of my resources. I have a lot of good resources, but at the same time they are checking, do they meet the objectives of the organization? The other one is okay. 9 and 10, I think they are clear. Has there been an increase in profitability? Have sales increased? Okay. And here the last one, have profit margin and ratios indicators increased? Here the idea, did the indicators of profit margin and ratios increased? The idea here, is there profit by the end? Is there profit in the organization? Adequate and timely information. This means what? Making sure that the given information at the right time is the main thing in the effectiveness of a strategy evaluation. This is the idea of the last point. Again, adequate and timely information. Again, I'll go over that, saying what? Making sure the given information at the right time is the main thing in the effectiveness of an strategy evaluation. So we know now what is strategy evaluation. If a strategy evaluation cover, this is the nature, how it's working, why we need a strategy evaluation. If it covers all these things while you are planning, then you are on the right track. Strategy evaluation is operated at 2 levels. We can say it's working on 2 sides: strategic control and operational control. Strategic control and operational control. So at the strategic level, the main concern here is consistency of strategy with the environment. Trying to make a kind of balance between strategy and the environment it's operating in. At the operational level, assessing how well the organization is pursuing a given strategy. How well, putting highlight on the effort to assess how well the firm following a given strategy. The main focus in the operational level, assessing how well the organization is following a given strategy. So in strategy operation, we have two levels. Make sure you understand those two: strategic control and operational control. Let us move to the second slide. Importance of strategy evaluation. Do you think it's very important to have a strategy evaluation? Yes, it's important. Look at the underlined red points or phrases that we put there. All these are very important. Number one, check on how good this strategy choices, the strategy that you choose or chose, how good is that strategy. Number two, it gives feedback on the extent that the choice is relevant to make sure how effective is the selected strategy. I think is clear. Then help in assessing the decisions taken to match the usual used strategy. This is number three. This will help in assessing the decision taken are matching the used strategy. Important to make sure of your decision. Do they match the strategy that you planned or you want to depend on? Also, it gives a high successful of strategy management process. If you have a good strategy evaluation, it will give a high successful of strategy management process. So management level, they are aware of it, so it will support them a lot. If management use the strategy evaluation, they will be highly successful in their strategy management process. If then strategy evaluation gives good amount of information to the strategists which will be useful in a new strategy planning. This is the last one when it might be a little bit confusing. Strategy evaluation saying successful culmination of this strategy management process. Okay, means strategy evaluation gives good amount of information to the strategists. This is the last one. This is strategist can be useful in a new strategic planning. So strategy evaluation gives good amount of information to the strategists which will be useful in a new strategic planning. Those people who are in charge of putting strategies, it will help them and it will be very useful for them in a new strategic planning. So they will exceed all those problems as they come across a lot of strategy evaluation, will make the process for them easier. This is the idea here. Yes. So let us move to the coming slide, which is what? Participants in strategic evaluation. We have around 10 participants or 10 names. Yes, they are 10 seems. Yes, count them with me. Seems they are 10. All those people or all the mentioned names here have the right to participate in strategic evaluation. Shareholders, board directors, so on, all of them. But I'll focus on the red one, profit center heads or SBU heads. All the mentioned names and have the right to participate in strategic evaluation, and they can be member in strategic evaluation as participants, or they can participate in that. Read them, all of them, go over them. They are very clear, but let me just explain number 4 for you here. Profit center head is clear for you. Profit center head, you know who are they. The second part, which is SBU heads, the heads of strategic business units, in general profit center heads. The strategic business heads unit, we call them strategic profit center heads. In some countries, even speculation centers are involved. Therefore, they are putting those SBU heads. In some countries, we don't have those speculation centers in our country, but some countries can be part of strategic evaluation. Could be all those 10, 3 of them, 4 of them, depends on the size of the organization, depends on the main members in that organization, depends on the situation, rules, regulation, the contract, type of contract. So any one of those mentioned members or participants can be involved in forming a strategy. I think it's clear. Barriers in evaluation. Barriers. You might come across of things that might make your work or job little bit tough. Limits of control. You can't control everything as there are limits. Depends on the management, on the organization, on head people, sometimes the security, depends. So limits of control. Sometimes you are not allowed to use a lot of information in their system. So this is a kind of limits. 2, I think difficulties in measurements, which is not difficult. Difficulties in measurements. Sometimes you face difficulties in measuring parts of or tasks or activities in that organization due to a lot of limitation. Could be management, could be rules, could be regulations, could be the system you are not allowed. So difficulties of measurements. Sometimes even those measurements equipments which are not giving, which do not give a real measurement or accurate measurement. Resistance to evaluate. Resistance to evaluation. Resistance means most high level refuse to be evaluated. Sometimes you are entering a place, you want to evaluate, you have the right, but highest person or top person will refuse to be evaluated. Then you cannot do anything. Or he will not allow you to enter part of the system as it's a top secret or something. So you are in a trouble. So this is one of the resistance. Short-termism means short-term, done for short-term. This evaluation is done for short-term. That means even the results will be used only for that particular period of time. Okay, relying on efficiency, doing things right versus effectiveness, doing the right things. Sometimes when you are under pressure, you are under all those things, they want you to do the right things, to do things right. As you are filling the papers and it's part of your job, someone is checking after you, you have to do things right. But the main thing, what we are looking in this evaluation strategy, effectiveness, doing the right thing, which is one of the barriers here, can be considered as a barrier. This is the idea of that. So barriers, difficulties. Barriers is different than difficulties. Barriers is different than difficulties. Barriers might stop you. You cannot change. You cannot do it. Difficulties, challenges, you can, but you will face a lot of problems. So strategy evaluation is becoming increasingly difficult due to those reasons. So challenges you might come or might occur, might happen because of those reasons. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Read them carefully. I think number 1, number 2, also 3 are clear. Let us look at number 4. The rapid rate of obsolescence of even the best plans. What do you mean by that? Means the fast rate of being old. Yes, the idea, yes, the fast rate of being old as even best plans. Means as things are moving fast in the business, in the market, in the environment, results, regulations, and what thus might lead to difficulties. Come across a kind of, even if you have good plans, you want to work on, but they might be considered as, even if you feel they are best plans, because of the rapid rate, because of the fastness, things are going so fast, they might be, even those plans might be even old, or yes, old, or obsolescence, which means old. Number 5 seems easy. Increase in number of both domestic and international events affecting the organization. Increasing problems internally, or even if you are working in an international context, affecting the organization. Number of both increasing. A lot of problems are coming across. Inside domestic, inside your country, even outside your country. Number 6, the decreasing time span for which planning can be done with any degree of certainty, means the decreasing period of time cannot make planning to be done certainly or perfectly. There might be a kind of difficulty to do so. This is the idea here. So we have barriers which might make evaluation impossible to a certain amount, high certain amount, difficulties, challenges you might come across, but even you can avoid them. This is the idea. Now we have difficulties, problems. So what is required for effective evaluation? Looking at the barriers, looking at the difficulties, from those they thought of good requirements for effective evaluation. Again, this seems easy. Control, what we are looking for, should involve only minimum amount of information, as too much of information create confusion. When you want to evaluate something, just focus on certain parts. Don't go for everything in the organization at the same time. Focusing on certain amount, minimum amount, will give you right result. But too much information will make a kind of confusion. Number 2, control should monitor only managerial activities and results. Most of the people who are saying the requirements of effective evaluation mainly focus on managerial activities and results. Why? Because those managers, they are in the face, or the head of the work itself, the head of the activity. If they are supportive, if they are very helpful, if they are with the aims and objectives, so they will make the activity smoothly go, and results will be highly appreciated. Therefore, they said monitor only managerial activities. Follow the managerial activities to make sure your evaluation is effective. Control should be timely so that corrective action can be taken quickly. Means this is 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, this means what? 1, 2, 3. Control should be timely so that corrective action can be done. Control should be timely. You put a time to make a kind of effective evaluation. Time. Put them a time, so the correction. That means don't say I will evaluate by the end of the year. If you have a process, so put every 3 months. At least at the first 3 months, if there is something, correction can take action. Corrective actions can be taken quickly. Don't wait till the end of the process. In the evaluation, we know it's coming as a final step in any strategy, but when you are evaluating, make it periodical, after 3 months, 6 months, so on. So whenever you face little problems, you can solve, but don't wait till the end. Long-term and short-term controls should be used to adapt a balanced approach. Either every 3 months, 6 months, every year, we need to do those two types to adapt balanced approach to have good results, good implementation with good objectives and strategy. All of them are going in the right direction. They are almost balanced. These are the requirements. Let us see if I have other requirements. Yes. 5, 6, and 7. Okay. 5 means controlling should aim to indicate or locate the expectation rather than catching mistakes, because this will not result in effective evaluation. And they give you example 80% and 70%. Here the idea what? When you are putting evaluation process or evaluation strategy, the main aim is to look at the exceptions, what you want to avoid or take. Don't try to catch mistakes, because then the results will not be effective. Focus on expectations. Don't focus on catching mistakes. This is the idea of that. The idea is to focus on exceptions rather than catching mistakes, to make the strategy more effective, or effective evaluation. 6. Reward to meet or exceed standards should be emphasized to motivate managers' performance. Make a kind of rewarding, a kind of encouragement, motivating those people who are working on that, or who are exceeded what you wanted from them. They did more than what is required from them. It's a kind of motivating thing. So make it to motivate those managers' performance. Why we are focusing on rewarding? Because this will motivate them to do much and better. Pay attention to their performance. If it is positive, reward them. If not, encourage or penalize, but mainly rewarding. Don't look at the negative side. And the last one, unnecessary emphasis on penalties tend to pressurize the managers to rely on efficiency rather than effectiveness. This is what we want, effectiveness rather than efficiency. The idea here is saying don't put emphasis or stress to penalize or punish, a kind of punishment, as this put managers under pressure to rely on efficiency rather than effectiveness. Don't penalize them, because this will lead them to be under pressure to do the things as they wanted, not as the right thing. What we are looking for, efficiency rather than effectiveness. What we are looking for, what we are after is effectiveness. But if they are under pressure, they will go to do it efficiently, like filling paper as you want, but reality is not as it should be. This is the idea of this. Okay. Criteria for evaluation strategy. This is the criteria. If I want to go for evaluation strategy, I should put 4 important points as criteria: consistency, consonance, advantage, and visibility. What do we mean by consistency? Strategy must present reliable goals and policies. Must not present mutually inconsistent goals and policies. Means if you want your work to be consistent, accurate, strategy must present reliable goals and policies. Don't dream and put policies and strategies which is above your ability, above your ability, above your power. So make it reliable, make it reasonable, make goals and policies. Consonance means what? Look at the red one. Okay, it is what? Strategy must create a kind of harmony with the external environment. This is the idea here. Create a kind of harmony with the external environment and to the critical changes in the environment. Should have a kind of adaptive response to the external environment. Is it clear? I think it's clear, right? Represent an adaptive response to the external environment. Yes, you should change your response according to the requirement of the environment. You are depending on the external environment and the critical changes in that environment. Therefore, we need a kind of consonance, means a strategy, a kind of creating a kind of harmony with the requirement of the surroundings. Three, advantage. Advantage. A strategy must provide for the creation or maintenance of competitive advantage in a selected area of the activity. This means what? A strategy must work on or provide chances for competitive advantage in the selected area of activity. A strategy must work on or provide chances for competitive advantage. This part should be when forming a strategy. It's one of the most important criteria for evaluating strategy, putting competitive advantage as a plan in your strategy. Why? Because this will make you work harder, compete, face competitors, and try to be in advanced position rather than them. This is one of the most important things to think as a criteria. And the last one is saying what? Visibility. Visibility means what? Here it's too long, I can make it short for you. The final broad test of strategy is its visibility. Here means do not overtax or do not overtax the organization, or do not overtax or create problems. When you are putting this, that make sure that you do not overtax or create sub problems or problems, but making the strategy practical, possible to work properly. So think of the positive thing. Don't think of overtaxing or creating problems or sub problems, but try to make the strategy practical, possible to work properly. By making what? By making use of the strategy within the physical, human, and financial resources of the firm. By making use of the physical, human, and financial resources of the firm. I came with this conclusion. It's just for you to read these two citations here, number 1 and 2. You can't manage what you don't measure. If you are not measuring what you want to do or implement or use, then you cannot manage it. And read the second one. I just found those two citations are relevant to the strategy evaluation and on the importance of strategy for your personal benefits. Read them, focus, try to learn something from this conclusion. And the last slide is about the question. What is meant by grand strategies? What do you mean by grand strategies? Explain it. If you remember, let us go back to the first few slides. What is the grand strategy? Grand strategy. I think the first, corporate strategy. So what do you mean by grand strategies? Explain. If you have a question like that, look at the strategies. You need to, in this idea, you need to talk about all of them. Growth strategy, stability strategy, retrenchment strategy in detail. Imagine you got an exam and you got one of those questions. So this means you have to cover those three, as you see, those three strategies in detail. Let us go back to our question. The last slide to see the second question here is what? Discuss the diversification strategy. If you remember what we said about diversification strategy, talk about it in detail. What is diversification strategy? I don't want to go back, but I can remind you of it. Diversification strategy, if you know, we have to talk about related and unrelated diversification. In this case, if you get a question like that, means discuss, means talk about it, explain it. If you feel your explanation is not that clear, provide examples to clarify your idea. But first explain it, then provide example to be on the safe side. Define strategic evaluation and then discuss the importance of strategy evaluation. This is what we talked about just now. What is strategy evaluation? Even you write it in your own words is accepted. I want your understanding, to see your understanding. Then explain the importance of strategic evaluation. You need to explain each of them. Don't list 1, 2, 3. No, I don't want that. I want you to explain each point. For example, helps to keep a check on the validity of strategy choice. What do you mean by that? Explain it. This is the idea of the questions. Whenever it says explain, discuss in detail, that means not only memorizing the points here and listing them. You will not get full mark for that, either if you have it in an exam or in an assignment. Discuss in detail the barriers in evaluation. We came across the barriers. They are 5-6 points. Don't list them. Discuss in detail. Explain each of them in detail. If you have a good, clear example to cover them, will be perfect. Whenever, this is just advice not only for this, whenever you get questions like that or similar to this, explain, discuss, try to write what you understand about this point, and always try to provide example to support your answer, to strengthen your answer, and also to make sure you will get a better mark. That's all for today. Hope you understand it. If there are questions or you want to clarify something as that day Ahmed did, you are most welcome. We'll discuss that in the WhatsApp group so all can benefit from that. Thank you and see you next week, inshallah.